a nice leg attack right away from Keegan Oliver. Getting in now as a high crotch position. Is going to look to try and switch this to 2. Has to be concerned about the elbow underneath, because early on, this isn't where you're going to slip under, and a good fireman's there to get into good position is Keegan Oliver, but good defense by Rick Pfeifer.
A nice sprawl there from Rick Pfeifer to roll away after the throw from Keegan Oliver. Has the one arm under, and again, we saw him choke out Tyler Neese just a few months ago, and we'll see if he tries to do the same there. Tried to sprawl over the back. Oliver says none of that.
Yeah, this is a position that Keegan would work every single day, and when he trains wrestling, they end up in that position often, and trying to get in behind is where they're going to be. So now Keegan is going to work to try and take Rick Pfeifer down, but good defense by Pfeifer, elevating and using the cage to his advantage.
Oliver has Pfeifer up against the cage. Some wrist control there. Both fighters trying to work an advantage. Oliver tries to spin out and throw his opponent to the ground, but ends up now on his knees. Pfeifer on top. We'll see how wide a stance. You can see Rick Pfeifer trying to hold there and prevent Oliver from rolling him over.
Yeah, and still holding onto that head, trying to cut off some energy there. Now trying to do the same thing, using the underhook to spin around Keegan Oliver, and now landing some good shots. Good defense here by Rick Pfeifer.
Oliver still has Pfeifer up against the cage. Now secures the takedown after grabbing the ankle.
And you talked about the tenacity of Keegan Oliver, and you're seeing it right here. He's been countered 4 separate times on this leg attack, and yet he keeps on coming. He keeps coming forward, and he never stops until he gets the position he wants to get in. Now he's to side control, trying to now create space to be able to do some damage from this top position.
Pfeifer getting some distance, but Oliver landing a couple punches to the body. Again, no strikes to the head of a downed opponent here under Calgary Commission rules. Big knee to the chest there from Oliver, and now Pfeifer has him up against the cage.
Yeah, and a good double underhooks position by Rick Pfeifer up against the cage, and now we'll look to do some damage here to the legs of Keegan Oliver, and a good attempt at a throw. Nice counter by Keegan Oliver, but ending on top is Rick Pfeifer. These guys are all over the place. Very technical grappling here by both of these fighters.
Yeah, you can see why we rate them amongst the highest of the prospects here in Hard Knocks. Again, Rick Pfeifer has the head of Oliver, but Oliver drives through and ends up landing with a couple shots to the body as the first round just about coming to a close, and there it is.
I think a little bit of gamesmanship there. I think that Keegan was trying to fake shot, and then Rick Pfeifer was defending the shot, but then was able to get through and get a takedown of his own. So good, again, good battle here between these two guys. And now we'll see what Rick Pfeifer is able to do in a dominant position, but right back up onto his feet is Keegan Oliver.
And Rick Pfeifer pulling him down with all of his weight and trying to roll around the back. Again, Oliver doing a very good job anytime Rick Pfeifer tries to take the back of ending up in a dominant position. Just catches the leg of Pfeifer, throws it forward, and ends up in that mount position, or in the guard position.
Yeah, and as a wrestler, that's a position that you see, and you talk that Rick Pfeifer works some wrestling in his camp. The problem is that Keegan's been wrestling for such a long time. This is a second nature to him. And when an opponent comes around with his ass up in the air like that, you're going to get a fireman's carry, which is what Keegan Oliver is doing in this case. Keegan now pushing the pace, trying to get to the side so he's able to land some ground strikes.
Oliver calls his coach, Mike Dunn, the wrestling coach, the best in the country. And Keegan Oliver has not met his match yet when it comes to wrestling here in the Hard Knocks cage.
Lots of good accomplished wrestlers coming out of there. Also some MMA fighters, Canadian MMA fighters are starting to train over at the Rock FC to get that straight up wrestling technique. And looks like a submission attempt here by Rick Pfeifer. He's got that wrist trying to slip it out.
Has the one arm of Keegan Oliver out in front of him, trying to isolate it. Oliver trying to scramble out of it, and does. Again, just continuously driving forward and driving through his opponent, but Pfeifer still trying to bend that arm out, still trying to find that submission, and Oliver a nice wall walk to keep that pressure off.
Yeah, and again, back right into the position. I find that you don't use the word tenacious unless they're a little guy, and I guess when you're fighting a guy your same size, but there's no other word to describe it with Keegan Oliver's style. It's very, very intense and very much forward. And as he continues to grow in his skills, hopefully he can move that towards some striking and a good, nice jab right to the chest of Rick Pfeifer.
Just a few seconds remaining in round number 2 on our featurefights.ca fight clock. Keegan Oliver again on top of Rick Pfeifer here. And this round, again, a little close. Pfeifer looking exasperated there, looking up at the referee, wondering why we're not standing up. And this time Keegan Oliver raising his hands before the round as opposed to after.
Well, again, whatever advantages you can get, and maybe a little bit of a psychological advantage as both fighters tie up here.
Pfeifer trying to push Oliver clear, and Oliver lands a solid right hand. Pfeifer calling for more. Oliver says, well, then hit me, and then shoots for the leg again, and it will head back to the ground. The guillotine choke in a little deeper this time. Pfeifer doesn't have an arm in. We'll see whether or not he can cinch it up.
Well, and it doesn't look like Keegan is too affected by this because he's not attacking the hands. One of those things that if you see their hands go immediately, and a nice counter here by Keegan as he drops another shot.
Pfeifer just trying to carry Oliver over to his corner, and does so, and starts to land a couple shots up against the cage. Back and forth they go, Jeremy.
Yeah, both fighters are making a case for themselves here.
Pfeifer with the takedown, trying to pop up. Oliver not letting go, preferring to keep this fight on the ground, where it seems to have been to his advantage so far.
Yeah, and holding on to this front head pinch position is Rick Pfeifer.
Again, trying potentially to get stood up. Tried to stand up a minute ago. Has Oliver down. And you got to wonder, based on the fact that this is the first time we've seen Oliver slow down, if maybe he thinks he has the first 2 rounds and can afford to wait it out. And this is the first time Pfeiffer's been able to get to Oliver's back, however temporarily.
Well, and again, a nice switch by Keegan Oliver. The second you think he's slowing down, he keeps going. And, you know, Rick Pfeifer was doing an excellent job in holding down Keegan, but I think that he's going to know that he's got to put some pressure forward. Both rounds were very difficult to call, although the second was more Keegan Oliver's way. But it looks like the referee's going to stand him up. But I think that Rick Pfeifer is probably the more desperate of the 2 fighters. So he's going to be coming forward hard and look to counter by Keegan, and a good leg attack there.
Yeah, a sprawl out, but on the sprawl, he found Oliver on top, trying to isolate an arm, and again finds Oliver on top of him. And I'll stand by it, Jeremy. I think Keegan Oliver thinks he's got this fight won, because he has not been moving in this round the way he did in the first 2, and that's not something we've seen from him in the past, which is 10 seconds remaining in round number 3. Not much in the way of action from Keegan Oliver.
No, more of a dominating the way that he wants to do it. And
Oliver with some words for Pfeifer on the way by. We'll see how this one shakes out.